r/AskReddit. What are some things that people claim happen all the time, but you've never seen? A disabled person exiting a disabled bathroom stall. Edit. RIP Inbox. Not sure if I should be proud that my top comment is about disabled people. Vertical bar. I was once in the stall next to a handicapped stall and a guy with a cane came into the bathroom. The handicapped stall was occupied, and the guy with the cane was vocally unhappy about this. About how assholes take the stall from people who need it like him. A few minutes later, the guy in the handicapped stall flushes and rolls out in his wheelchair. That's like winning the lottery twice. Only it sucks. Women complaining about a man holding the door for them. Where I live, everyone, male or female or otherwise, holds the door for everyone else, and I've never seen anyone angry about it or being shouted at by a woman on the bus/train when they offer them a seat. I've seen people say no thanks, I'm getting off at the next stop, but I've never seen anyone get shouted at for it. I've never even heard of this. I like to think myself a gentleman. I would offer my seat to anyone regardless of gender. If that person started shouting at me, I wouldn't know how to react. Based on what I was told growing up, I really expected there to be a lot more random strangers offering me free drugs. I had a guy come up to me while I was walking in the city and offer me shrooms and hash. My response was, your badge is showing. Edit. Autocorrect sucks. Edit 2. Guys, I have no idea WTF he was thinking. It was like he was trying to go full on Basimi. Casper was blacker than this dude. He was trying to act straight thug. And he had the outline of a badge showing clear as day through his front shirt pocket. I don't know if it was a bet he lost. I don't know if it was entrapment. All I know is it's something my friends and I still joke about to this day. I swear, officer, I thought Shroomin was a Pokemon. Flat Earth. Never discussed with people who believe in Flat Earth. It's hard for me to believe this ignorance still exists. Know a guy who is serious about it. Also thinks giants once walked the earth and all sorts of other fun stuff. Lately he's mixed his newfound religious leanings in there too. So anyone telling him otherwise is a servant of Baal, whatever that means. He's actually a decent dude. Or at least was. And I didn't even mind all the cook theories so much before he got all militant about it. Edit. So this blew up. Couple things. 1. Yes, I'd heard of Baal, but IDKY he or it has a rooting interest in flat earth theories. 2. The is this guy from? Initials. ETC. A. No. But that's all I'm saying about that. Dude has enough problems. OBV. Well, there is sufficient evidence to suggest there were significant height differences between some tribes of people, some of whom were much larger than we are today and would have been giants to some of our shorter ancestors, not to mention some hobbit-sized humans as well. That said, it sounds more like he's talking about the angelic Nephilim 5-story tall variety and not just the holy hit, that guy's like 9 feet tall kind. Always a treat talking to people who almost completely disembark from the logical train of thought. I live in Florida and work at a hotel on the beach. In all the years I've lived and worked here, I have never seen a whale. Apparently they're all over and swim up and down the coast all the time. I've never seen one. Edit. Because people are being funny talking about obese people on the beach or at Walmart, which I do see a lot of. But you all know that I mean the marine mammal in the order of cetaceans. They mostly stay under the water. Edit. Mostly. No. They glide above water, but are blue, so they blend in with the ocean. Source: Floridian. The infamous post-Taco Bell hits. Or Chipotle hits, for that matter. Edit. Wow. This really blew up your butts. Ha 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 ha. I'll show myself out. I have an iron gut and eat ethnic food and very spicy cuisine on the regular, but for some reason, the barbacoa chipped hole goes in my mouth and instantly falls right out my ass. And then everyone stood up and clapped. The closest I ever got to this was on a job search. A company emailed me that they found my resume on Monster and were very interested in meeting to discuss an opportunity in their office, and would I be available this Thursday at 10 AM to meet with Scott. Absolutely. So, I show up at 10 AM. A girl rides up the elevator with me and gets off at the same floor. We both walked into the same door. The receptionist greeted us, and the girl said, "I'm here to meet with Scott." I thought, well, that's a little weird, but maybe she's super early. The receptionist looks at me and I said, "I'm also here to meet with Scott. I have a 10 AM. She escorted us to this conference room, where I see 30 other people. Now my alarms are starting to go off. She tells us to find seats and watch the presentation. Scott will be in shortly. So, sitting there in silence for 15 minutes, before I finally lean over to the girl and ask, "What job are you interviewing for?" She answered, I'm not entirely certain." I asked, "Well, what's on your resume? What job did you think you were being offered?" She answered, "I'm a mechanical engineer." "You?" "I'm a software developer." So, another 5 minutes goes by when Scott walks into the room. He's super excited to see us, and this presentation will take about an hour. He's asking people their names, and making an effort to use their names, whenever possible, as he's handing out copies of the PowerPoint slides. Tells us that we can take notes. I start flipping through the slide deck and notice right away that all the slides are either blank or otherwise devoid of content. They might have a title on them, but the title is just words. No explanation whatsoever. Things like company history and compensation, but otherwise empty. He tells us that there will be time after the presentation to ask questions, but in order to get done before lunch, he requests that all questions are held to the end of the presentation. "Scott," I said, "I do have a quick question before we get started. There will be plenty of time after the presentation for all questions." "Scott, I promise that this question will be quick and very relevant. Are all the positions available commissioned insurance sales?" "Well, we are an insurance company." "That's not what I asked." "Scott, are all the positions available commissioned insurance sales?" "Well, yes." I stood up and gathered up my resume and folder and said, "Thanks for wasting my time, Scott." And I walked toward the door. Scott rushed to beat me to the door and opened the side closest to me, causing me to pause briefly. As I did, I heard a great deal of grumbling and paper shuffling behind me. I turned to look, and literally everybody in the room except for 4 dudes in 3-piece suits at the front of the room had stood up at their tables and were putting their head in their briefcases and notebooks. I exited quickly enough that I got the elevator to myself, but looking back on it, I should have waited, because I definitely want to know what their elevator conversation was. Oh my god. This exact same thing happened to me with our block. I applied for a receptionist position on Indeed, and they called me in for an interview. I get there, and there's close to 30 of us in one room. And all they did was talk about hiring tax people and showed a PowerPoint on getting licensed and needing us to take their $400 tax course, which I was 1000% not interested in. I asked if there was even a receptionist position open. She said, "We are accepting resumes for it." You always have to accept resumes. About half of us left after that announcement, because we had applied for the receptionist position. That didn't exist. Winning the top slot machine progressive jackpot at the casino. They say it happens regularly, but I've never seen it or met anyone who actually has won it. You only have to ensure that a payout on a machine will occur at a specified frequency for every price possible. That is, if a payout of $5 has a 50 to 1 chance, it has to occur on average 1 in 50 times. As such, you're allowed machines that only pay out the jackpot 1 in 10 trillion times, so long as you can prove that it would eventually occur with that frequency. I did some digging, and now I know that China wants to regulate lost boxes/loot boxes in online games such as Overwatch. Blizzard need to show China's gov exact math behind any drop chance. It's actually good, I think. Edit, fix. Those freaking super parties you see in movies. Everyone has been to one except me apparently. Just freaky party. Never in my life has a party been that out of control. A party I went to last winter had fire breathers, so I'm pretty sure that counts. I'm not sure where the duck they came from, but they were there. I've been to those parties. Those people are fun to party with. But LPT, keep that world miles from your real life. Edit. To those parties with fire breathers and such. Second edit. Let me clear the air. The fire arts community I was a part of was also heavily into heavy drugs. This was in college. I smoked weed on occasion, but didn't get into the harder stuff. Ket. Opiates. Acid. etc. But the majority of this group, everyone except for a couple of them, did that stuff regularly, and last I heard from them they still do. When my college stoner phase ended, I was practically alienated from the group, which over time caused my practice to become less frequent until now, where I haven't even touched a staff, head or point months. This group was my introduction to the fire arts community, hence my skewed view of it as a whole. I'm aware that a large number of members are into various drugs, but also a large number are sober. I'm well aware of my bias. As I said below, the best way I can put it is that these people were not flow artists that did drugs. They were druggies that did flow arts. A trans person trying to spy on / assault me in the bathroom. Ditto. Though honestly, I'm not sure I'd notice a trans guy in the men's room. It's not like we pay much attention to anyone in there. I haven't seen any of the OMG they're out to get us. People present a single bit of evidence this has happened anywhere, ever, and you'd think logically it would have happened once. But nothing. Anywhere. Meanwhile, there's plenty of evidence of trans people being assaulted by CI's people, in both the women's and the men's room, and CI's women being harassed out of the women's room because they were a bit butch and were assumed to be trans. It's almost like it's got nothing to do with actual safety, and everything to do with trying to stop trans people from ever leaving the house. I've also noticed that the people who go crazy over this hit don't even realize what trans means. A trans woman, born male, transitioning / transition to a woman, probably won't look like a butch lesbian. But a trans man, born female, transitioning / transition to a man, who just started his transition might. But the laws that they write would theoretically force trans men who look butch into women's bathrooms. I seriously doubt conservatives want Buck Angel in women's restrooms and changing areas. But he has a vag, so that's what their laws imply. The opposite is also true. People who aren't familiar with her would probably just see Laverne Cox as a tall woman and probably wouldn't be comfortable with her using men's rooms. This whole ordeal seems to stem from a fundamental lack of understanding of gender and gender presentation.